Hi, this is this is an interesting topic. I've sat here for about 10 minutes deciding whether to talk about this or not, which I find fascinating because I was going to start this talk by saying we've, as a country, and probably not just us, other countries as well, we've got a fear of death, a fear of loss. We don't like to talk about it. We don't even like to think about it, even though we all know that it's something that we can't avoid. Some countries seem really good at facing it and displaying their grief, whereas we've got the old stiff upper lip sort of mentality. And I was watching a programme recently, really interesting, very sad but also really inspirational, where they had 12 people on this programme that had all been given diagnosis of, they had terminal illness, mainly cancer. They didn't tell you how long each person had to live, but they only had a certain amount of time to live. And what I found really interesting about this programme was that these people started to go off and do the things that they'd always wanted to do. One woman, as soon as she got the diagnosis, left her husband, which I found fascinating. Other people were going out and, doing all their bucket lists and things like that, which again, fascinating. And it made me think, why do we have to wait to be told that we're going to die to do all the things that we wanted to do? So I've entitled this film Fear of Death, but is it really a fear of life? Something for people to think about. Also, I've worked in bereavement, I've worked in hospices, I've worked privately with people that have lost children, and it's really tough, emotionally draining work. I remember working with a woman. I was working at Myton Hospice, and her son had passed away 6 months earlier. And she was saying to me how she was fed up of people saying to her, it's 6 months, you should be all right now, you should be starting to move on. And I just felt my heart just went out to her. One of the best definitions I've ever heard of this was a guy, I think his name's Tim Parry, I might have that wrong, but he lost his son in an IRA bombing a few years ago. And recently in the terrorist attack in Manchester where some children were killed, they were talking to him. And they said, it was the day after or 2 days after, and they were saying, how do you think these people will be feeling now, that have lost, especially children? And he said, well, at this moment in time, they'll be in shock. They won't know what's happening. All their family and friends will be around them, helping them. But eventually it will sink in. And he said, what happens is it leaves a hole. And that hole can never be filled. It will always be there, for the rest of your life. There'll always be a hole. But you learn to live with it. And I just thought, what a fantastic way of putting it from a guy who's actually lost his son. And also forgave the people that killed his son as well, which I find fascinating. I'm not sure that I could do that, but, I admire people who can. So, when you were working, if there's anyone around you now that's grieving, they're bereaved, they're grieving, the only advice I would give is give them time, listen to them. Try not to give them advice, because there's nothing you can say or do that's going to make them feel any better. Listen. There's stages of grief: anger, denial, bartering. And bartering is where you're pleading with God, to bring them back or don't let them die. And then the final 2 stages, and there's different models of this, but the final 2 stages are acceptance, accepting that the person's gone, which is really hard, and then adapting to life without that person. Which is the final stage. It doesn't mean you forget them. Like that guy said, there's always a hole, and that hole will never get filled. But, you learn to live with it, you adapt, and you move on. It's a really tough area to work in. Like I said, I've sat here for 10 minutes today before I started this thinking, do I really want to talk about this? But it's important for us to look at it. And like I said, maybe have a ponder around that question. Is it a fear of death, or is it a fear of life? That's the problem, These people, when they were given their diagnosis, were all living right up until the day they die. That was their determination. They were going to make the best of the time that they'd got left, which I think is brilliant, a fantastic attitude. But how many people out there are really well, as far as we know, and are sort of wasting life, not doing anything with it, and just waiting, just waiting to pass away. So I know it's not a big, bright, happy topic, but it's something that's worth looking at. We've got to look at it one way or another anyway. So enjoy the rest of your day. This phone's coming up with saying my battery's low, so I'm going to go. Hopefully we'll be starting the group soon, so keep an eye out for them, and we'll go into a lot more depth on stuff. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your time, and thank you for all your kind comments.